Hey, it's James Willoughby here with the JW team at Keller Williams here in Austin, bringing you another rendition of what's happening in the Austin real estate market. We are tracking stats from Monday through Sunday. Last week was Thanksgiving, so let's see what happened in Thanksgiving. It's always interesting to see the uh, the market gyrations during a holiday. So let's jump right into it. We could see that in week three, ending week three of November, we had 9,630 listings. And this last week ending on Sunday, we had 9,389 listings. So you can see we dropped down a bit. And if you look at last year's graph, you can see that we're tracking almost identical, just slightly higher, right? About almost, well, 300, about 350 listings more after Thanksgiving this year than there was last year. So, in my opinion, that is tracking almost exactly the same, statistically not off by very much money. If you really look at these two graphs side by side, you can see that they are kind of getting to the point where they're converging. So, I think we're going to see very low inventory for the start of the year. We haven't seen the expired listings for this month yet because we're not at the end of November. So usually a listing agreement will expire at the end of a month. So I think we'll see a dramatic drop in the number of listings that fail. We call them failed listings, where maybe they didn't fail, but they at least got withdrawn out of the market to maybe be relisted at a later date, or they just expired and maybe the sellers have lost enthusiasm. So we're starting off with that. Let me move my big head over here. Let's talk about some other things. All right, new listings, new active listings versus new pending listings. This one's always interesting to look at because it looked like the market just went down really bad. Well, it is a holiday weekend, but let's take a quick peek at that. All right, so we had, these are new pendings. New pendings last week, we had 673. When I say last week, I really mean the week before. The end of on Sunday, recording for last week, we only had 508. So it's quite a dip, but that dip is to be expected, and I'll show you why. And then also looking at the all important, like how many new listings did we have? Well, we had fewer new listings the week before than we did have pendings, which was great. But now you can see that that's dropped even further. So we only had 342 new listings last week come on the market versus 508. So what that means is that we're not adding a lot to the inventory. In fact, we're taking away from the inventory. So that's why the inventory for total actives is going down. Okay. Next week, we'll talk about failed listings. And then this week, we'll talk about weeks of inventory. So by all calculations, by the experts I talk to, this is probably the most important stat because it shows, based on our current consumption of homes per week, how many weeks of inventory do we have. Now, this is last year. You see, there's always a spike of homes in inventory for the week ending after Thanksgiving, primarily because there was less activity. We just pointed out there's also fewer homes going on the market, but you see how quickly it recovered, right? So we peaked out at like 19 weeks, almost 20 weeks of inventory last year, and then it dropped way down to 14 and dropped even further. Then, of course, we had basically a repeat of the same thing during the week of Christmas, right? So that makes sense, right? Well, let's look at this year. We actually only have 18.4 weeks of inventory, so we didn't have quite the same spike. So our inventory levels are actually going below where they were this time last year. So I think that's good news for home sellers, and it's kind of a projecting into the future, into the first quarter of next year. As this inventory goes away, I think that's going to help home sellers out. Let's talk. I got some new charts that I'll introduce next week. We're going to start talking about what a normal year looks like, 2019 versus 2023. I'm going to share you that the graphs look very similar. These are active listings, right? So we're doing it month by month, so that the numbers I'm going to report next week will be end of November. That's why I'm waiting. And then we also roll out new construction charts. So what that means is how many of the pendings that are going pending and closing are there that are new homes rather than resale homes. So we'll look at that next week too. That'll be real interesting. And then every week we look at interest rates, and going right directly to the source, which is the one place that actually tracks this better than anybody else, is the quasi-governmental agency called Fannie Mac. So they're a reseller of mortgages. So as you recall, back in, towards the end of October, right before Halloween, our rates had spiked and hit a peak of 7.79%, which is a amazingly 23-year high. And then every week since Halloween, the rates have gone down. The first week after Halloween, not much, and then it dropped pretty substantially, like a quarter of a point, and then it's been coming down a little bit every single week. So now we're at 7.29% for the 30-year fixed and 6.67 for the 15. So that's good for the overall health of the market, good for buyers and good for sellers. So that's the good news. So to wrap it up in a nutshell, the summary is that rates are declining, the total inventory is declining, and the health of the market I'm projecting to be better in Q1 than it is than currently. So, but the thing that is also important to point out is homes are selling, homes that are priced correctly, that are in the right areas that show well are selling. We've done very well at selling our inventory here at the end of the month and here at the end of the year. And if you're a home seller jumping in on the market in January and February, I think you'll see a lot less competition. So that's the good news. Until next week, we will talk to you then. Any questions in the meantime, please reach out. We always have a lot of questions and we have answers. So check in with us. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.